trên đồi, hòn đá rơi xuống cành mai, dùng cánh hoa mai gầy, chim chóc hót tiếng qua đời. Người ôm lấy muôn loài nằm trong tiếng bi ai, người ôm lấy muôn loài nằm trong tiếng bi ai. Mệt quá đôi chân này tìm đến chiếc ghế nghỉ ngơi, mệt quá tan ta này nằm xuống với đất buồn đời. Kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây, kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây. Mệt quá đôi chân này tìm đến chiếc ghế nghỉ ngơi, mệt quá thân ta này nằm xuống với đất muôn đời. Kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây, kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây, kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây, kìa con biết bao người dìu dắt tới quanh đây. Từ mình biết trên mình và ta biết trên ta, từ mình biết trên mình và ta biết trên ta.
Yes, please keep it louder for Akari, Nakatani, and the performers on stage.
Thank you.
Yes, that was an amazing performance. Thank you so much, Akari, and to all the dancers too. And that is how many times have you performed this song again?
I cannot count.
We have kind of like recreate the movie scene that you performed as well.
Yeah, I think Jim Gong-sun's music not very easy. So I had to spend lots of time to practice every part of it. Yes.
Yeah, but the way you performed that just now with all the dancers and your singing is amazing. I think you have successfully really transferred the soul and spirit of Jin Gong-sun not only to everyone here, but also to the audiences from TV as well. Don't you agree?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy.
Yes. People, no matter where they're from, through every single continent around the world, as well as through different generations, why they keep falling in love with Jin Gong-sun music. And that's for today's Talk Vietnam. So let's begin.
The Japanese version of Diễm of the Past echoes through a concert hall in Japan during a special event marking the 55-year singing career of legendary singer Tokiko Kato. For Kato, Jin Gong-sun's music has been part of her life for decades. She first discovered his songs in 1960s through the voice of Vietnamese singer Khánh Ly. Later, at the age of 25, she personally asked composer Jin Gong-sun for permission to record several of his songs in Japanese for her albums, including one that would later receive a gold disc in Japan.
Even after 55 years of singing Jin Gong-sun's songs, my emotions remain the same as they were in the beginning. The melodies are so beautiful that they can move listeners to tears. Not every song can live on through time like that. I feel very proud to be someone who helps connect Jin Gong-sun's music across generations, beyond national borders, bringing Vietnam and Japan closer together through his music.
Japan may well be the country that embraced Trịnh Công Sơn music most warmly outside Vietnam. In 1972, his song Lullaby, performed by Khánh Ly, sold more than 2 million copies in Japan and earned the prestigious Gold Disc Award, a milestone rarely achieved by a Vietnamese composer at the time. More than half a century later, his melodies continue to resonate there. For musicians like Matsushima Yoshio, leader of the band Việt Soul, Trịnh music represents something deeply universal. And the reach of Trịnh Công Sơn music extends far beyond Japan. Across Europe, tribute concerts marking anniversaries of the composer's passing continue to draw audiences, celebrating a body of work that transcends time and borders. In South Korea, Trịnh Công Sơn legacy is also on display at the Asian Cultural Museum, where his music is introduced to visitors as part of Asia's shared cultural heritage. Here in Vietnam, for many foreigners who have chosen the country as their second home, his songs have become a quiet doorway into Vietnamese culture. For actress Nakatani Akari, who played the role of Michiko Yoshi in the film Trịnh and I, learning about Trịnh Công Sơn music for the role helped her better understand and appreciate the legacy of his music.
Trịnh Công Sơn songs are something like very poetic and also gives people like a different feeling in like individually. Some of his songs, I sing in the film, I sing in a way that I'm being happy, but actually the lyrics is not really the happy songs. So I think that's my choice, or could be the director's choice as well, that even though the lyrics is could be very heavy, but I still choose to be happy.
For Wes Thompson, an American lecturer living in Ho Chi Minh City, Trịnh Công Sơn music nights at a small music cafe in District 3 have, for the past 5 years, become an essential part of his life. He even designs posters for the community's Trịnh music gatherings. Introduced to the music by a friend, Trịnh Công Sơn songs have since become part of his daily routine.
I just love to sit down with a nice coffee and listen to Mr. Sun's music, and it just really calms my soul and makes me feel more alive. Even if I'm not here, even if I'm back home in the United States or traveling, if I hear one of his songs, my heart is back in Vietnam every time. So there's a common thread in his music, a common theme that really unites us as humans, and it doesn't matter where you're from. Those themes are very important to us, and our happiness and our willingness to live a good life.
Among those continuing to share Trịnh Công Sơn music today is Kyo York, an American singer whose career in Vietnam was built on performing Trịnh songs, singing them in both Vietnamese and English. He has taken this music to television programs and major cultural stages, introducing its poetic spirit to new audiences. With lyrics layered and philosophy yet expressed through simple poetic language, Trịnh Công Sơn music continues to touch listeners across cultures and generations. His songs have been translated into many languages, including English, Japanese, and Korean, allowing new audiences to discover their meaning in different cultural contexts.
You've just witnessed a moving journey of Trịnh Công Sơn music, crossing boundaries from Japan to South Korea, even half the world away to the United States. And it truly represents that what comes from the heart will surely reach the heart. And in the stories, you probably have spotted a very familiar face, especially to Vietnamese audiences, and that is Kyo York. Once a tech engineer in New York, through the love of music and more specifically for Trịnh Công Sơn music, he has created a career in Vietnam singing Vietnamese music. And with that being said, thank you so much, Kyo York, for coming over to Talk Vietnam today.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm so happy to be here. And especially talking about a topic that I'm very, very passionate about from the beginning of my career all the way up until now. So
yeah. And speaking of the beginning of your career, so obviously you have had the love for Trịnh Công Sơn music from the beginning. So I really want to ask, how did that love begin?
So when I first came to Vietnam, I was a volunteer for Princeton University, and I was teaching English in the Mekong Delta in Hậu Giang. And I didn't know Vietnamese at all. So I was like really in a spot where I really wanted to learn the language just to understand kind of what I was doing, where I was, the people around me. And because I'm a professionally trained singer, I caught on very early that Vietnamese is very sing-songy. It's like...
Yeah. With
it's
all
like,
the tones.
yeah. So I was able to kind of make a connection that if I were to learn it through music, it might come easier. So the songs of Trịnh Công Sơn were kind of where I began.
Yeah. Which is quite hard to believe because of all the repertoires you could have chosen, Trịnh Công Sơn is the one who have you chosen first. Is there any reason behind it? Because to me, Trịnh Công Sơn lyricism and music has a lot of depth and there's a lot of difficulties in understanding it, especially from an outsider, from an outside perspective looking in. Yeah. So, like, what is it about Trịnh Công Sơn music that really piques your interest at that time?
I think that from a basic standpoint, something that I noticed really early is that Trịnh Công Sön's music is really accessible in terms of the melody. Yeah. It's not complicated. It's actually very. It's just very accessible in terms of, as a musician, looking at like, how does a person emote through music? And I think Trịnh Công Sơn, he embodies that. Like he really is, he's like very, very, like Vietnamese people say, it would be very, very dolly. The thing that keeps Trịnh Công Sön's music alive today is that he talks about what it really is rawly to be a human being. So it's like, all of those emotions still resonate. Doesn't matter in 2026 or, 1970. Yeah. It's still fundamentally being a human still remains the same, right? Yeah. Life on this earth and the journey that we have as people, we still experience the same emotions over and over and over again. He had a very, very interesting way of portraying that through breathing life into what it means to be human through music.
And I think that is such a poignant view coming from you as well, because like we also have international experts who have studied Trịnh Công Sön's music and how it's spread. Professor John Schaefer, I believe, has also really compared, Trịnh Công Sön's to Bob Dylan. But ultimately, they're two different people at the end of the day.
For decades, Trịnh Công Sơn has often been called the Bob Dylan of Vietnam, a label echoed by critics, audiences, and artists including Joan Baez. But for John C. Schaefer, he was never merely a comparison. After living in Vietnam during the war, Schaefer spent decades returning to Trịnh music with both scholarly rigor and personal devotion, reading the songs through world, urban life, language, poetry, and Buddhism. He unpacks their layers of love, loss, suffering, and impermanence. The result is a 645-page study with extensive notes, original translations, and deep analysis, a remarkable work that reads Trịnh Công Sơn on his own terms, far beyond easy comparison.
In his songs, sadness related to his own fate, including unsuccessful love relationships and sadness for the human condition, are difficult to separate. One is always turning into the other. If being an engaged Buddhist means seeing the connection between inner peace and world peace, then Trịnh Công Sơn was an engaged Buddhist.
Thuật ngữ là soft philosophy của Schaefer rất là thú vị. Âm nhạc của Trịnh Công Sơn có tính triết lý nhưng không phải là triết học theo cái nghĩa rất là hàn lâm, rất là học thuật của nó. Giai điệu thì rất là dễ nghe và dễ nhớ, như là những cái lời ru của mẹ, bằng một cái cách diễn giải rất là giản dị, rất là dễ thấm. Thì Trịnh Công Sơn truyền cho người nghe những cái triết lý của cuộc sống bằng cái thứ triết học mà John Schaefer gọi là triết học mềm.
Through that lens, the book moves beyond music, reading both artists as reflections of the world that shaped them. Ultimately, the book reframes Trịnh Công Sơn not as a Vietnamese version of anyone else, but as an equal who addressed the same universal question of war, peace, and the human condition.
Don Schaefer mở đầu cái cuốn sách của mình với một cái cách nói là Trịnh Công Sơn là Bob Dylan của Việt Nam. Chúng ta thoạt nghe thì chúng ta có một cái cảm nhận Trịnh Công Sơn chính là một hình ảnh phái sinh của Bob Dylan. Nhưng mà Schaefer không dừng ở đây. Ông tiếp tục phân tích và qua phân tích của ông đó thì chúng ta thấy rằng Trịnh Công Sơn không phải là một phiên bản của Bob Dylan. Trịnh Công Sơn là một người đối thoại đồng đẳng với Bob Dylan, tức là trong một cái viễn cảnh toàn cầu thì Trịnh Công Sơn và Bob Dylan đứng ở trên cùng một nền tảng, bình đẳng với nhau và đối thoại được với nhau thông qua những cái tầng gọi là xuyên văn hóa. Và chính cái đó nó làm cho cái tầm cỡ của Trịnh Công Sơn vượt ra ngoài, vượt ra khỏi cái bóng của Bob Dylan.
The Vietnamese edition was launched 25 years after his passing, offering a new way to listen to his legacy, not just as a national icon, but as a philosopher on the global stage.
Con tồn tại thì còn nói đến tình yêu, và còn ca tụng tình yêu, và cho đời chủ ơn là nói về tất cả cái nỗi lòng của mình.
You know, within the, you know, the understanding of Trịnh Công Sơn towards like whatever he wants to send into his through his lyrics, through his ideas, he always chose images.
Yeah.
And ideas that is so universal and responsive.
Yeah.
To everyone, I feel.
It's an amazing reflection of Vietnamese traditional music. But something like Trịnh Công Son's music that transcends that is that it is very 1970s. It is very accessible melody. It's easy is what it is.
Yeah.
The melody is easy, and that's why so many people can play it on a guitar. It's easy. It's accessible.
Yeah.
But the thing that complicates it is the words that are placed over that melody. Almost like, you know, something that really speaks to the soul, like 6 strings on the guitar. It speaks to the heart and the soul, and when you hear music, you just light up, you know what I mean? When you're strumming a guitar and you're singing, you know, it's an immediate access point to the human soul and the heart. Because music is actually, let's set linguistics aside, music is the international language. That's the thing that actually speaks to what it means to be human. It's like the first thing we do when we're born. When we pop out of our moms, we cry. You know what I mean? Or we make sound.
Yeah, we hit our first note.
Yeah, so sound is what makes being human. Human.
Yeah.
And so when you hear something like specifically string instruments, they have a way of sort of getting into the heart and soul of the human psyche for whatever reason. But so you have this, you know, guitar, simple.
Yeah.
And then you're telling the story with one guitar and you're singing it, whatever the story is, right? Yeah. So that's kind of why when I did my like 20 năm Nhạc Trịnh, that series, my whole goal was to do it the way it was originally presented, which is just one guitar and one voice, and that's it. Now, that's not to say that making it complex and putting, you know, a full orchestra behind it and rescoring it, it's amazing when that happens.
Now, in your project, 20 Years Remembering Trịnh, you also translate few of his songs to English and terminologies like vô thường, which is inherently very Vietnamese, to English in the words of impermanence. So how do you ensure that the originality, the spirit of Trịnh Công Sơn music remains when you do those translations?
Thanks for this question, because I think there's a lot to talk about. when it comes to translating music, especially when you're doing it like from a, like it's very, okay, so the world exists cyclically. So there's, you know, the East and the West, of course, they're very different philosophies as to what it means to be from a society that is steep-rooted in Buddhism and a society that's steep-rooted in Catholicism, right? Or Christianity. Yeah. So those religions help to shape culture and people in and that transcends time and all that kind of stuff. But so that's one sort of thing. And in fact, it's really, really hard to talk about things like fate and like, you know, Vietnamese people say like, oh, duyên, right? Everyone is like, oh, duyên, what does it mean? It doesn't really mean fate. Yeah. It's a very, very complex meaning that transcends the word fate. Yeah. But it's really about taking the language and repackaging it for a Western audience so they understand kind of what is happening. About. Yeah. Jin Gum Sun's music comes with a lot of depth. It's a very, very complex language, genre of music. And it has a lot of like poetic meaning and inflection, and there's a lot to kind of unbox.
Decipher.
Yeah, for sure. At the end of the day, like the very soul of Jin Gum Sun himself was very reflective, like a mirror, with all of the things around him that were going on. And then how to sort of paint them into a picture through music. Yeah. So just like a painter paints a picture, right? Yeah. Whatever they see, and they emote that through brush strokes on a canvas with color. Yeah. It's the same as someone like Jin Gum Sun sort of absorbing the world around him, and then, you know, breathing life into, you know, the music, the guitar, and, the notes on the page, right? Yeah. And I think it's really, really cool to see, like, for example, there's like when you see his handwritten music, it's like you can kind of see his mind, like, you know, through the way he wrote, through sort of. So I think the thing that makes Jin Gum Sun's music interesting and why it has resonated for so long is because it's very human.
Yeah, human and also very personal. Music has such a vitality that lives through language barriers, that touches hearts and that responds to hearts that might not even, you know, was not even Vietnamese in the first place. Yeah. Such as yourself. And now that you have you know, build your whole like life in Vietnam. The catalyst was Jin Gum Sun music, but the bigger catalyst is music itself. And so, how long would you feel? How relevant would you feel like Jin Gum Sun's music is going to live on?
Oh, to live on forever. I mean, especially in a Vietnamese context. Yeah. In 2019, I sang for the first time. I got to sing with Can Ly in. Nhà hát Trung Vương, so the Trung Vương Theater in Da Nang. Yeah. And I sang Quyền Hung with her in English and Vietnamese. 2022, I got to sing in Paris with her as well. It was like just an exclusive show, me and her. And then also, like, I think another thing that I really, really love about doing this is that I get like the stamp of approval from Jin Bin Jin. Yeah. And the family. Yeah. And they trust me as an artist to keep the integrity of Jin Gum Sun's music and deliver it to an international audience as well as a Vietnamese audience. I think that's probably the greatest honor that I get as an artist. And I'm super proud and happy that I have the opportunity to be loved by Vietnamese people, but also hopefully, you know, anyone.
International music listeners as well.
For sure.
Well, thank you so much, Kyo York, for all the insights. And thank you for being a bridge to bring the love of Jin Gum Sun music not only to other Vietnamese audiences, but also to audiences around the world.
Thank you so much to everyone that's watching Talk Vietnam today. So I hope that all of you still maintain an extreme love for Jin Gum Sun's music, as well as Jin Gum Sun himself, and allow his legacy to live on